Well, hi guys. It's been a pretty long time since I uploaded a Skyblock video, but I have some good news if you'd like those videos. I'm going to be coming back and making a lot more Skyblock videos, so make sure you're here. If you also like the other videos I was making, don't leave because I'll still upload those, but I'm going to be focusing a lot on Skyblock for the moment. One of the things you're probably wondering is, he's probably so bad, he didn't play in 6 months, right? No, this is completely false, and you'll see what I mean later. First of all, I built a full Among Us map in my island, so that's already a lot of time I've spent, but there are a lot more things I've done. If you take a look at my skills on my Sky Crypt, you'll find out that I went from about a 35 skill average to over 47. So that video is going to be coming up in the future when I hit the 50 skill average. Now that you're caught up with what I've been doing, let's go into the video about how I got Revenant 9 in one day. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe. I know my channel's basically dead now, so I'm just hoping to see if we can get maybe 16,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're at 15.5k and hopefully we can get it. So first things first, I waited till I could get Aatrox elected. He had all 3 of his perks, and because of this, I knew I had to grind as fast as possible. You might be a little confused why I was so determined to grind when Aatrox came, but I'll explain it now. So the main reason is because combat was one of my lowest skills compared to all the other ones. It's pretty weird if you think about it, because most players will tell me that their combat skill is their highest. But for me, it was the second lowest, and fishing was getting close to it, with fishing 33 and combat 38. So I decided I wanted to get that to at least 45 before the end of the event. If I was able to complete this, my lowest skill would be fishing with 33, but my second lowest would be 45. So it was my goal to get all my skills except fishing to 45. One of the other reasons I was so determined to grind this out, because I was grinding a lot of different skills. Right before this was Marina, so I was grinding a lot of fishing, and obviously when you grind a lot of one skill, you end up getting bored of it. And before Marina, I was actually grinding a lot of farming because Derpy was elected. And now I was going to switch to my third skill, being combat, because if you didn't know, before Derpy, I think my farming was about 36, and now you see that it's about 46, so I obviously did a lot of grinding. So one day, I equipped my full superior set, and I went straight to grinding. I was grinding so many revs, I can't believe I was doing it. I went from being basically about 500k XP in revs, and not even close to having a ranking in the collection, to 2,075,000 XP and being ranked 145th out of all players. So that's a pretty big jump, but that didn't all happen in one day. See, I didn't actually get Rev 9 from Rev 1 in one day. I actually wrote the title as that because it's harder to explain than saying that I got 1 million Slayer XP in a day. I basically just grinded so much Slayer on one day, getting about 1 million XP, and after I did that, I was pretty burnt out, and I was at about 1.5 million XP. Then the few other days I went a little bit less sweat on it, but still pretty sweat because it was 500k XP, and I ended up getting the other 500k, which brought me up to 2 million, and the event was about to end the next day, so I just quit. So now that you know what happened, I can explain a few tips that I came across when grinding revs. So firstly, this is more of a just general skill type thing, but try and make it so that you have some type of other content to be watching when you're grinding. For me, I usually do a video, but music also seems to work too. It just depends on your mood at the time. So if you don't have a second monitor, don't worry, because there's actually another way to do it, which I actually use as I don't have a second monitor. And basically just download a Chrome extension called Picture-in-Picture, which is also represented as PIP, and this allows you to put a little frame or a little window of your video on top of whatever program you're using. So in this case, Minecraft, I can have a little picture or a little window of whatever video I'm watching, so I don't have to pay too attention to actually playing. I've actually asked one of my cousins who also plays with us, and he's in our co-op, and I basically asked him if he uses it too, and he actually uses picture-in-picture even though he has 2 monitors, and he says it's easier to actually grind the game with the video on it because you don't have to be looking between 2 things. And for something like combat, where you have to be pretty invested in the game, it's not as like brain dead as farming or foraging. So he actually puts it on the screen even though having 2 monitors. So I recommend you do it even if you don't, even if you do have 2 monitors. So now going to actual tips of what you want to do when you're grinding the revs. So first things first, get your gear. So people will tell you, oh, Shadow Assassin better than Superior, oh, Necron's better than Superior, and they're not lying, but it's not that big of a difference when you're grinding revs. I never actually went into buying Shadow Assassin or Necron or anything, and I still have my Superior set. So I just use that and it's perfectly fine. I grind in probably the most XP out of my entire guild, and the few extra seconds of grinding they didn't have to do probably didn't really make that big of a difference in the long run. Another thing you should know is that Superior actually gives you a 5% stat bonus, which also increases your magic find. That's why you see like people like Refraction who are using full Renown Superior to go and do the max magic find. And this is actually pretty useful. I don't know if it beats out the time you lose by taking longer to do revs if you were doing them in Shadow Assassin or Necron, but it's still a good bonus which could make it decent for revs. Also, one thing that I didn't know is that the Reaper Falchion is actually much better than almost any sword you could have. I personally thought, oh, obviously my Livid Dagger would be better than this old Reaper Falchion I got like 8 months ago, but it's actually not the case. Even with the extremely high damage of the Livid Dagger and the high attack speed and the ability that I can click almost like 13 CPS, I always noticed that I would be faster with my Reaper Falchion. So don't sleep on a Reaper Falchion. Make sure you get one. It doesn't even have to be that like high stats or like recombobulated. It can just be a Reaper Falchion and it will obviously be a lot better than any other sword you have. So another thing that people talk about is being able to one-shot revs using a Midas Staff. I asked people to borrow, but I don't think that many people use them outside of dungeons and they keep them for when they're playing dungeons. So I wasn't able to borrow one. But even if you're able to one-shot, it doesn't really change that much, because if you're wearing a decent set like Sup, you can kill a rev in like 5 seconds or less, and this just brings down the time to about 1 second. So you're saving 4 seconds. So it's not the biggest saving of time. The biggest saving of time is when you're actually collecting the XP to get the rev to spawn. The main important thing you should do is actually get anything that you can find to make your combat XP gain faster, because spawning the rev is much harder than actually killing the rev when you're at a higher level. So there's a few things you need for the max combat XP gain. First of all, you're going to need a legendary wolf pet level 100. Anything else on the pet doesn't really matter. You can use after you get it to level 100 or by level 100, I recommend switching it out for a Lucky Clover so you get a bit more magic find. But if you're trying to go for a higher taming level, it's good to keep the combat XP boost so you can get that taming XP. You will also need the Hunter Ring, as it gives you plus 5% combat XP, so make sure you get this. The other 2 things you need are pretty simple. You just need a God Potion to get the combat XP boost, and a boosted cookie because it gives you a 20% skill bonus. So now that you got all of this, there's only one more thing you need, and it's something to kill the Crypt Ghouls when spawning your boss. For me, what I personally use is a mosquito bow, and the main reason I use it is because I got a mosquito bow a while ago, and now that I have it, I just never sold it, and it's actually pretty insane for grinding revs. When I've been grinding revs with it, I've felt that it's slightly, very slightly faster than a Runon's because its piercing is much better than the enchant. So it doesn't say anywhere on the bow, but if you actually use the bow, you'll notice that your shots will pierce a lot more than a usual shot. Like if I go and show you a quick example, like I can just shoot my bow and it will hit those zombies from really far away, and most piercing bows with just piercing 1 won't actually go that much. And I can just show you another example, like right here. If I shoot it, it's gonna hit like as many zombies as possible, which is usually a lot better than most bows. Another good example can be the death bow. This is a pretty good bow to use. The only reason I don't use it is because I'm catacombs level like 20 or 19, and you need catacombs level 28 to use it. But definitely if you have catacombs level 28, it's very useful, and it's probably better than a mosquito bow. I haven't been able to test it out obviously, but I've heard it's the best bow to grind revs with, and it's also just a good dungeons bow. So this is probably a very good bow to grab. So now we're basically done with the entire guide of what to do, but there's one final thing: boss spawning locations. This doesn't matter as much as it matters with other slayers, but if you go and you purposely spawn a boss in a specific place, it makes it much easier to grind. For me, the main thing that makes a spot good to grind is if you can hit your head. So for example, a good spot would be this, under this iron bar. See, if they try to hit you, they can't push you out because you're hitting your head on the bar, and when you spam jump while killing it, you will actually end up getting crits. So it's very much worth grinding under these iron bars. Here's another head hitter, another head hitter, another head hitter, and by now I think you get the point. Just find a place where you can hit your head, and that's usually one of the best places to spawn. So now we're gonna end the video, but right before that, I actually saved every single drop of loot I've gotten from grinding these revs, and I'm able to show you all of that right now. So I kinda lied to you, I didn't keep every single drop. The only drops I didn't keep were foul flesh, revenant flesh, and rotten flesh. Every single other thing that I grinded is in these chests. There's a few extra items that I got before this 1.5 million XP grind, so I'll point those out, but other than that, this is all the stuff I got in those 1.5 million XP. Spoiler, I'm not lucky. So looking in the first chest, just a huge amount of Smite 6 books, 3 ghoul pets, and I actually have 2 more in my thing. So I have a ghoul pet right here, a legendary one, and then I have another one that I forgot to put in the chest. So actually 5 ghoul pets, one of them being legendary out of the 5, which I'm pretty sure is the chance. I'm pretty sure it's like 20%, so that's pretty funny that I got the exact chance. Then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 beheaded horrors, 4 golden powder, 8 snake runes, almost 2 stacks of pestilence rune, undead catalyst, revenant catalyst. Kind of funny how I got more revenant even though it's technically epic, and it's by 10, so it's not just like a small deviation, it's like a pretty big deviation. Then another Smite 6 book, and then 2 Scythe Blades, but I actually only got 1 in the 1.5 million XP. This other one was in the first 500k. So that shows you how unlucky I was to only get 2 Scythe Blades and 2 million XP. And then if you look in the second chest, it's just a load more Smite 6 books. And the final thing you're wondering is, how much did it cost you? So for me, it only costed me about 30 million coins after spending all the revenant flesh to get all that XP. And keep in mind, this was during Aatrox, so it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more if you're not doing it during Aatrox. After tallying up all the money I would get from those chests, I ended up finding out that I get 10,474,000 coins from all of those drops, but it's very unrealistic because there's a lot of drops there, and I'm for sure not selling all those things. So thank you guys for watching, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.